Yeah, okay, folks. So I'm gonna try to make this one a short one, as short as I can. I mean, I do like to talk, and I am repetitive, so it is what it is. Whatever. I'm just wondering how many people here watching this remember a time years ago when the word and the term disinformation was kind of welcomed by the public. Like the public kind of accepted it and the term, and it was actually like a term that was used to bring truth and light into conspiracy theories. I'm just wondering if anybody remembers a time when the word disinformation and the theme with disinformation was actually welcomed by the public. This is the Disinformation Company. They were founded, it's a publishing company, and they were founded in 1996. And it's kind of interesting. The Disinformation Company, abbreviated as Disinfo, was a privately held, limited American publishing company until 2012 when it was sold to Red Wheel /Weiser /Conari. It also owned Disinformation Books, which focused on current affairs titles and books exposing alleged conspiracy theories, occultism, politics, news oddities, and purported disinformation. It is headquartered in New York City, New York. Arguably, its most visible publications to date are 50 Things You're Not Supposed to Know and the Everything You Know About Subject is Wrong series, both by the company's editor-at-large, Russ Kick. And some of you are probably familiar with Russ Kick. But there was a time when, the word disinformation was associated with, exposing conspiracy theories and exposing, the truth about things. And it was associated, and a lot of people took it to heart. A lot of people adopted it into their belief systems. A lot of this information that this publishing company put out there, but it's kind of interesting. A little bit of information here. It says here, in 2000, Disinfo organized DisinfoCon, a 12-hour event featuring Richard Metzger, a rock musician, Marilyn Manson, underground filmmaker Kenneth Anger, painter Joe Coleman, and a whole bunch of other people too. And I'm sure that was kind of interesting. And it probably got a few more people interested in the disinformation of truth. In 2012, the company produced a 4-episode documentary series called Disinformation, also alternatively titled as Disinfonation. In 2008, the Disinformation Company itself was accused of spreading propaganda, such as 9/11 truth material by Louis Project. Interesting, huh? As of June 17th of 2020, the disinfo.com website was inactive. While the Disinformation Company Limited was still listed as the owner, all content was deleted and the domain was for sale. How curious, huh? Well, I find it really curious because of the number of publications that they have put out. And, this was the Disinformation TV series. They had a TV series that went for 2 seasons, 16 episodes. It was a television show hosted by Richard Metzger. I'm sure a lot of people watching this know that name too. It was aired for 2 seasons on Channel 4 in the UK as part of their late night 4 later programming block. Called a punk rock 60 Minutes and the Wilder Than Jackass by the Los Angeles Times and Wire magazine respectively, the 16 30-minute episodes produced for C4 and several segments never aired in the UK. They were then cut down to 4 one-hour specials intended for the Sci-Fi Channel. Oh, in America. But never aired due to the controversial nature of what was portrayed on screen. According to interviews, Metzger was told just 12 days prior to the first special's air date that he would have to cut 50% of the material from the show in order to pass the USA Network's corporate lawyer scrutiny. Those 4 shows have subsequently been released on a DVD with a second bonus disc presenting highlights of the DisinfoCon, a 12-hour event featuring shock rocker Marilyn Manson, underground filmmaker Kenneth, and a whole bunch of others. So in other words, they made it seem like the information that this guy was pitching was something that nobody wanted to see. So then, therefore, everybody wanted to see it, right? Because therefore, they were going to censor it, right? They were going to keep him from showing it, and they had to cut it down, and they didn't want to show it. So therefore, because they didn't want to show it, it must have some truth in there, right? You see how they build up the whole thing there? But anyway, this was one of their publications, Underground, The Disinformation Guide to Ancient Civilizations, Astonishing Archaeology and Hidden History, and it is a very interesting read, one of which I'm not going to read too much into in this video here, but I just wanted to show that it was copyrighted 2005 by the Disinformation Company, and it's got a couple of interesting things here. Disinformation is a registered trademark of the Disinformation Company Limited. The opinions and statements made in this book are those of the authors concerned. The Disinformation Company Limited has not verified and neither confirms nor denies any of the foregoing, and no warranty or fitness is implied. The reader is encouraged to keep an open mind and to independently judge the contents. Well, now, isn't that the case with just about everything? Don't you wish there was that kind of a statement on every publication put out there by every publication company? Because ultimately, that's what all information is. And I find it curious here that they offer quantity discounts and bulk purchases of this book for educational training purposes. How about that? Yeah. Anyway, yeah, this is a really interesting read. It does have a lot of really interesting stuff in it. Talking about along the 33rd degree parallel. It mentions some information about Atlantis as well, which is kind of curious. And then there's some information about the pyramids as well. Stuff from Graham Hancock, of course. The Giza power plant. Yeah, that's a really interesting chapter there as well. There's a lot of interesting information in this publication. It definitely is interesting to read. But again, it's just information. And if you think that they are going to release truths and facts through a publication company called the Disinformation Company, then, you know, you might be a little bit mistaken. I mean, granted, there's probably a little bit of facts and truth in everything. There pretty much is in everything. But one thing that we can do by documenting information is we can look at the publishing dates. And this is just a small stack of, you know, what they've published. This is probably about half of the books that this particular publishing company has put out there. And, you know, it dates back, as far as I got back and documented, was to 2002. But I'm sure there's some prior to that as well. I just have to look up some more information. But, you know, we can go, like, year by year. You know, 2002... 2003, this is what they put out. 2004, this is what they put out. 2005, this is what they put out. And, you know, I can go through each one of these and show you all of the different publications that they put out. Here's an interesting one in 2009. You are still being lied to. The new Disinformation Guide to Media Distortion, Historical Whitewashes, and Cultural Myths. So, you know, we can look through the dates of when they published this out. But then we can also go through something else here that I've got documented, and this is just this spans from like 2015, I believe it is. This is 2004. Oh, this is top news stories for 2014. Oh my goodness, yeah, this is going to be another one I'm going to go into because it's kind of curious. What is mentioned, January 16th of 2014 talks about the massive protests in Ukraine, and it has a little story here. I'll go into that in another one, but for right now, I just wanted to show you, you know, I can go through these different years here, and let's see, let's go back to 2009. We'll use that as an example real quick here. Then I can go back here to 2009, and I can look at what some of these, you know, top news stories were and what was kind of going on around the world, and just kind of compare the information. And then I can go back through and I can look at what did the Disinformation company published in 2009. And we could see how did they really want to influence the public in that year based on what, some of the news stories were. And why do you kill? This is one about the, why do you kill? The untold story of the Iraqi resistance. So around the time when that was published, there was a lot of other stuff that was going on concerning Iraq as well. So I do believe that this disinformation company, this publishing company, that put out all of these books, you can see, I mean, there's hundreds. They put out a lot of 50 things you're not supposed to know religion. The Forbidden Book. I mean, we can look back through the dates and we can see, like, I've noticed anyway, like somewhat of a correlation with some of the main events and top news stories that were going on in some of these previous years. And I got this all the way back to 1917, as far back as I could find for some of these news stories from this particular site here too a while ago. But yeah, 1920. There's some interesting statistics in there too to look at, but I can go back through any number of these years. 1989, let's see, let's go to 84. Let's see what the top news stories in 84 were. Yeah, pretty interesting to see the chronological and timeline of events, and then also compare like some of the statistics as far as population and everything goes from year to year. So, I just find this kind of information is really interesting to me. And should I go back to, it's interesting to go back to my birth year too. I could look up what was going on in my birth year and what was going on during like the space race and stuff going on through the 60s. And I do find it very curious that back in like 1937, 47-ish, right around in that time, there was no mention in this top news stories about Roswell or anything like that. But anyway, that's a whole nother video. But, if I go back through the timeline and then look at some of the events and things that were going on at certain times, I do believe there is somewhat of a correlation with some of these publications that this disinformation company had put out in correlation with current news events and how they wanted to influence the public's opinion about current news events and everything. So, you have to remember that William Casey back, from the CIA back in the 60s made the statement, and it's pretty well known, I think, anyway, that, they'll know that their disinformation campaign is complete when everything that the public believes is a lie. So I think that it's very curious that they would bring about the term and using the term disinformation once again, like they did. So, and this is pretty interesting too. Glitter and Greed: The Secret World of the Diamond Cartels. And this was in 2007. Yeah, there's some interesting publications. This was one of them here, 2007, that they put out quite a few. In April 1st, they put out Glitter and Greed: The Secret of the World. And Wolves in Sheep's Clothing: The New Liberal Menace in America. It's kind of interesting. It gives a little bit of a description of the book, too. Faced with the collapse of the American dream at home and the decline of their global empire abroad, American liberals have dumped the 1960s-era radicalism of their youth and become complicit in a complex game of bait and switch, selling the world a vision of liberal democracy that is, in reality, a failed system on the verge of social and economic collapse. Yeah, it's interesting. And, I mean, April 1st, Fool's Day of all days, they published these three, in one day. Glitter and Greed, Wolves in Sheep's Clothing. Who really runs the world? The War Between Globalization and Democracy. Yet another interesting read. And the world is a mess. It's constantly at war. Things cost too much, and the average person struggles to survive against powers they can barely see, let alone control. It appears so at odds with common sense. Does that sound familiar? In fact, that it begs a fundamental question. Who runs a world? And this book tells you all of the truth that you need to know, and there's no reason to look anything further from the Disinformation Publishing Company because we know the truth and we're giving it to you, so believe us. Anyway, and then that same year, 2007, Who's Watching You? The chilling truth about the state surveillance and personal freedom. Do you think that they're going to let this publishing company or any publishing company release full facts and truth about everything that's going on? No, they're going to give us bits and pieces. They're going to give us little nuggets, so to speak. And again, in 2007, The Enigma of the Knights Templar, Their History and Mystical Connections. Oh, Supernatural, Meetings with the Ancient Teachers of Mankind. Everything you know about God is wrong. The Disinformation Guide to Religion. 50 Facts That Should Change the World 2.0. Circle of Six, the story of New York's most notorious cop killer and the cop who risked everything to catch him. So you're going to wonder what that publication was about, other than they just wanted to raise awareness for something. But anyway, this video is already long enough. Shoot. My point of this video really was to just kind of show that a lot of these tactics and things that they're using now are nothing new. And if you've been around long enough, you've already noticed the pattern. And if you haven't already noticed the pattern, then you probably should take note of the pattern so that we can stop repeating history, folks. You know, it's funny to me how quickly so many people were willing to jump on board with this disinformation publishing company because they were publishing information that they wanted to hear and that closely resembled their belief systems. And a lot of people have taken these publications from this disinformation company as facts and truth and are still pitching it as facts and truth. But all you have is information. That's all anybody has. Nobody has the truth. Nobody has the facts. I don't even have the truth and the facts. I just have information. That's it. Information that I can take in and then I can form my own opinion on and share with other people. Not to influence other people's opinion. I have no interest in influencing people's opinion. I'm just sharing information and I'm sharing my opinion because, hell, I got to get it out somehow. I got to be able to share my thoughts and my views with the public somehow. I mean, otherwise, what's the point of any of this, you know? So anyway, I want to do another one because I want to go back through some of these top news stories from some of these years gone by and do a little bit closer of a comparison to some of the other information that I have, just to see and show how over the years information as it's collected and documented is presented in a different way, even 30, 40 years down the road. So anyway, folks, there you go. To anybody that wasn't aware, there was a time when the term and the word disinformation was welcomed. And people couldn't wait to hear more from the Disinformation Company. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Dang. 19 minutes. I really didn't expect this video to be that long, but oh well. It is what it is. Stay safe and mindful out there, folks, and know that I appreciate you watching. And again, because I'm repetitive, I got to say it again. If you're still watching now, after 19 and a half minutes, whew, you are like double awesome. And I appreciate it. Any and all allies. It's like a big old fluffy security blanket for me every time I see a new view. So thank you.